Those of you who have been following Destiny in his orbit for a while may have started to notice a rift forming.
Destiny can help you with the slandering. I'd rather not.
In late November, a leak occurred which revealed, shall we say, a lot of Destiny's personal history. There has been massive speculation about the people involved in those leaks, whether the sharing of them was consensual, and people's both public and private reactions to them. What I have for you today is a breakdown of the conversation that occurred between President Sunday and Stryker. This includes multiple DM leaks between the parties involved, and conversations of the general strategies being taken. But first, let me explain to you why I'm prepared to release these at all. When I went looking for these DMs, having heard about them on the grapevine from a couple of sources, I'll be honest, what I found was two separate individuals who had received them independently, and for one of them, they were pretty far down the chain. Now, people's level of knowledge involving these leaks is debatable. Though at this point, I will say, of all the people who aren't directly involved in these events, I probably have one of the fullest pictures. The story I want to tell you isn't really the story of Destiny. Rather, what I want to display is the machine that exists around him. Because, to be clear, that machine around him is already being exposed.
Hi everyone. So Lonabox has announced that he is quitting YouTube, and he gave a bit of an iffy answer for that. Like he said, it was in part because he was supposedly harassed and smeared by me and Hassan. But I actually found out the real reason just now, and it's that Destiny cucked him. His girlfriend cheated on him with Destiny.
And this drip feed of information is causing so much speculation from everybody that regardless of what anybody's original intentions were, it has created more of an air of mystery, speculation, and interest than was ever needed. On November the 29th, 2024, President Sunday would reach out to Stryker regarding the Destiny leaks and ask her to check in on Pixie, as even at that point, people were beginning to speculate that it was her in the images. They then begin discussing the situation and how best to move forward with informing Pixie, which leads to an hour-long call in which Sunday provides further context around the leaks themselves and other people Destiny may have been involved with. This also includes a conversation between Lav and Pixie, which occurred during the Mr. Girl saga, where Pixie denied sleeping with Destiny when confronted by Lav. Pixie would then go private, much to the frustration of both Sunday and Stryker, both of them realizing that in some ways, this was just a confirmation that it was indeed her to those who were speculating. Outside of these two, the wider rumor mill was obviously already spinning, with people reaching out to see what information or opinions other people had. There's obviously the additional factor of speculation regarding what other communities may know or be referring to when they're coming across general memes or comments. These conversations would continue for several days while they discussed the reactions from the wider community and online discourse. Picking back up on December 4th, President Sunday becomes concerned with Pixie's approach and tactics, noting that that's like every wrong decision she could make, now it's content. The concern generally being that this was only reinforcing people's opinions that she was the one in the leaks, and driving people to investigate deeper. Stryker would describe this as Sunday preaching to the choir. Importantly, it was around this time that Not So Erudite would reach out to Stryker. She asked how Pixie is doing, but then she asked if Pixie knew he took the video and if she consented to it being shared. I don't know why she'd even ask me that. My answer could be no on both counts, and she would not change a thing, lol. It's quite obvious that in the opinions of both Stryker and Sunday, that Not So Erudite would be asking these things not out of concern for Pixie, but out of concern for Destiny, with a general feeling that regardless of what the answer was, Kyla's position wouldn't change a dot. Stryker does also confirm that Pixie was aware of the recording at least existing, and that it had not been created without her knowledge. The conversation moves off this topic once again at this point, to the wider subject of Hassan and the Twitch war that was occurring at the time. Though it would come up again around the 1st when Stryker brings up Fairy Queen leaving a comment on Kyla's most recent video. Erudite seemingly had been in contact with Fairy Queen asking her to take this comment down, or at least a section of it. Though it is worth noting that Erudite is openly talking about being in contact with the victims of the leaks, and noting concern for them as the primary reason for its removal. As I'd like to do as little editorializing as possible here, I'll let it pass without much comment. Though I would like to point out at this point that the leaks themselves and the silence around them had become such a fascinating topic that even Wick TV seems to recognize that this is obviously becoming a content item in and of itself.
Keep that in mind. It's an interesting question. Symposium Brain for $20 says Melina recently confirmed that the sex tapes leaked by Destiny's former
Jesus Christ.
girl were shared by Destiny without her
Nice,
consent.
good one. Nice.
If she has no legal recourse.
And I've got a whole bunch of super chats for you, Wick. Ready?
Okay. Did you not?
Wick.
Okay, fair enough.
Wick is a stinky butt. I think that's a #1 super chat.
At this point, Stryker accuses Kyla of being snaky about this to President Sunday, explaining that Pixie and Kyla have been in contact, with Not So Erudite acting as a kind of liaison. It's also revealed that Dan reached out to Pixie as well. And from what Stryker had heard, Dan encouraged Pixie to ask Destiny for a reasonable amount of money, as well as trying to get Pixie to persuade Steven not to sue Kiwi Farms. Stryker would then provide Sunday with the DMs between Not So Erudite and Pixie, and notes Pixie's original desire for a payout somewhere in the region of $1 million. So let me take you through the conversation between Not So Erudite and Pixie. Pixie, in blue, begins by reaching out to NSE asking whether she's had a chance to talk to Steven yet. NSE responds by asking if there's anything Pixie hopes was brought up. Pixie then explains that depending on how that conversation goes depends on what her next course of action will be, particularly based on whether Destiny feels like he needs to make up or repent for his actions. Timeline-wise, Pixie had already spoken to Destiny in what was essentially a brief exchange of DMs. Pixie would also assure Not So Erudite that she was not a danger to herself at this time. Though a constant theme in Pixie's communications is this potential underlying risk that she may do damage to herself. Not So Erudite asks whether she can share this with Destiny, to which Pixie agrees, citing the fact she doesn't feel like he really understands her perspective, and it may be better coming from Not So Erudite. Not So Erudite pushes a little harder to work out exactly what it is that Pixie wants. She lists what she thinks are her goals: help removing the video from online, getting the guy who hacked charged, a sense that Steven understands how in the wrong he was, and plans to prevent this from ever happening in the future. Here Pixie clarifies, what she wants is for this to be the most expensive mistake of his life. She doesn't list a dollar amount, nor does she want to make him destitute, but it should not be easily recoverable. NSE responds, my understanding was it was more a sense of rehabilitation and justice. But you have a specific thing you want now, which is for him to lose a certain amount of money. Pixie responds that she feels that unless he faces actual repercussions, he will never change. Also noting that this money can be given to charity. Not So Erudite, seemingly unsure what to do with the conversation at this point, says she'll have to talk to Steven, as this request for money isn't what she was expecting. With Pixie then responding that what she's looking for is a general acceptance from Steven that he understands this as a potential course of action to rectify the situation, as she views this as a potential penance, which is essential, in her view, to the rehabilitation process. She goes on to explain that if Steven agrees, then great, that's an agreed course of action, but if not, then she will have to go through the court system to, as she puts it, figure this out. She goes on to note that Destiny has already alluded in DMs with her previously to financial compensation, though her concern is that he doesn't really understand the level of proportionality she is expecting from him. Kyla would then respond to tidy up the language, as in her view, it's not about punishment, it's about making sure that he is genuinely remorseful and changing his behavior. As she goes on to further clarify Pixie's position, with Pixie agreeing to the general gist. They go back and forth, with Kyla clarifying that you're not making me sad, other than like, I'm obviously sad my friend is hurting, and was hurt by our other friend. Pixie makes a final clarification that Destiny needs to understand the severity of the situation, and that paying some bills, which is a reference to her previous conversation with Destiny, isn't enough. With a final clarifier from Kyla that, I think he was worried you would feel he's paying you for your silence, but did want to help but didn't want to overstep. I think he is offering a lot more than you read it, but I totally understand why you read it that way. Back in the conversation between Streamline and Sunday, Streamline notes that Pixie was discouraged by the lawyer she was talking to from pursuing this against Steven, and this had moved Pixie to wanting to go public as she didn't feel confident in any form of legal justice. Sunday goes on to reinforce that Pixie does likely have a legal route open to her, and provides further information which Stryker is to pass on to Pixie for her to consider. Sunday would then go on to ask whether there have been further conversations between Pixie and Kyla that he's not aware of, or between Pixie and Steven. These DMs, to put it simply, are Pixie confronting Steven and saying that she was going to write a note, making it clear what happened and what her feelings were, while emphasizing Steven's contribution to her current state of mind. Destiny then goes on to reassure her that she has a lot of life ahead of her, and that these leaks would pass given time. Finally, Destiny makes an offer that if she requires any help with any bills or anything, then to let him know so he can provide assistance, and it's one less thing for her to concern herself with. Stryker goes on to share some DMs from Pixie in which she laments the difficulty a legal case would present, at one point suggesting that in frustration she may get the same lawyer who works for Kiwi Farms. Conversation between Stryker and Sunday once again returns to the general topic of the leaks, for several days until the 8th of January, where Stryker would share a copy of Pixie's statement regarding these leaks, in which she states that the sharing of these images was non-consensual, and to her knowledge, she is the third person this has happened to. The timeline she provides is that this encounter occurred fairly early on in her online career. She also cites how she would pursue him in court, and that this would be a civil action. As this was clearly prepared for publication, she also notes her GoFundMe, and the fact that such a case would cost money and would need wider public support. She also, at least to some degree, verifies Stryker's earlier comments regarding Dan Saltzman, noting, I have been told by a variety of people to not go public, most notably Destiny's anti-Twitch crusader, Dan Saltzman. Finally, she leaves off noting that Destiny has violated federal law in his transgressions against me. He has violated my consent and is directly responsible for the sexual abuse I have received. When pressed on the release schedule of this statement, Stryker shares a DM between herself and Pixie, where Pixie clarifies that she wants to talk to her lawyer first and send a demand letter, and based on his response to said letter, release it. I originally wanted to do it by next week, but seems unlikely. On January the 10th, President Sunday would approach Stryker asking if there was any updates on the situation. She responded that she hadn't heard anything else, and she speculates that Pixie at this point may be annoyed with her and just simply ignoring the messages, though she assures Sunday that had Pixie taken the payoff, she would have been informed. It would then be on the 16th of January where Stryker would once again reach out to Sunday, asking him whether he was aware of Lonerbox's stream, in which Lonerbox stated his intention to take a break from streaming, but more importantly, alluded to what happened.
It's a little bit frustrating that the psycho smear campaign against me has kind of succeeded, and it's basically all because of Hassan being willing to platform it. Which is very annoying that you basically have to like suffer the consequences of someone else's stupidity, but is what it is. Someone else's failures as a human being, but that's not why I'm taking a break. That's just annoying, and it's something that I'll probably be able to work around by myself. But
within this live, Lonerbox notes his frustrations with Hassan, but points out that the Israel-Palestine discourse and how he's being treated in regard to that content isn't his reason for leaving. The further allusions come when people bring up Destiny to him in his chat.
You've got Tiny to back you up, both. You make quite the team when you're together. No. What do you mean stop streaming? I'm not going to stop like forever. I just need some... It doesn't matter. I just need a bit of a break. What was the catalyst for that decision? Can't really go into detail. It's been a few things. Have you just not been enjoying streaming? I mean, I like streaming. I just, there's just a lot of things surrounding the whole thing that's making it... It's just making me need to step back for a minute and reassess what I want to do going forward. Is it the IP discourse? Nope.
Lonabox's obvious discomfort around the topic of Destiny led to what I can only describe as a cascading series of events where people began to realize that this once contained story was not going to be contained for much longer. And it has not taken long for even people such as Hassan to start reacting to this news.
Okay, so what's interesting is Bad Infant correct himself. It's not cheating, but that she had denied previously sleeping with him and then was in the leaks. Oh, okay. Okay, so that makes a little bit more sense. So Bonerbox starts dating a Destiny Orbiter. The Destiny Orbiter tells Bonerbox, I never had sex with Destiny. And then Destiny, in the endless interest of like trying to fuck, e-girls that are in his DMs, sends his entire library of content that he filmed with his ex-wife, which I'm sure his ex-wife is not fully on board with. I would suspect that if you were Destiny's ex-wife, you probably aren't very happy about like videos of you guys having sex being distributed to random people, including, many other people. And that person that he sent it to, their friend, I think, leaked all of those videos and made it viral. And one of them was even Destiny like sucking a penis. And that's where the whole like did Destiny suck off Nick Fuentes drama comes from. But ultimately, what ended up happening is, I guess that's when Bonerbox found out that his girlfriend had actually lied to him, maybe. I don't know.
Given the nature of the developing situation, President Sunday suggests having a call with Stryker to explain to her that at the very least, Pixie's involvement is now public discourse. And most pressingly, that the conversation between Pixie and Erudite had leaked to a wide range of people. Sunday, for his part, had been approached for a conversation by another content creator regarding these leaks, as people were beginning to try and work out how much information everyone else was holding. They begin going back and forth, discussing who the leaker of the leaks may be, though honestly, looking through it, it's sort of an elementary question at this point. But we do get one more interesting detail, and that's the fact that Stryker had been discussing all of this with Destiny throughout this period. In fact, it was Stryker who suggested to Steven compensation. Sunday asks, but given that your impulse is to try and find a mole, I'm going to assume that what they said is accurate. You suggested Steven pay for Pixie's law school. Stryker responds, this was one of my few suggestions. I said that she's in a precarious financial situation, that she's not consulted her therapist, and that therapy bills or payments to assist with law school would be money that would be productive to her because it's something to look forward to. She refuses to tell her family, and things were breaking down with Lona, and I felt overwhelmed being one of I don't know how many people she let into a limited support network. What follows in these DMs is essentially Sunday emphasizing the situation to Stryker. At time of recording, Bad Empanada has come out with a video titled Destiny is a sex criminal, shared porn of multiple people without consent. The spiraling situation is what led to Sunday coming to me. He was aware already that I'd been looking for these DMs, and was aware at the very least of their existence. Because he wanted to provide a fuller context for them, rather than just me releasing them in a tweet, he offered this wider conversation with Stryker, hoping it could help fill in any blanks, along with any outstanding leaks or information which I may not have. I have attempted to present this information with as little bias as possible. I really just want to provide you with a wider context for what has been happening within the DGG machine. I personally never sought out the Destiny leaks. I have now read more of Destiny's Kiwi farm page than I ever wanted to. And while If I'm being frank, I'm not surprised or stunned or shocked by the leaks. I'm not a Destiny fan and never have been, but I've never hated the guy either. Unfortunately for me, this story is one that is basically impossible to ignore. It has been fascinating watching people dance around this topic, and at least for me, this is the part of the story that I wanted to know about. I'm not an accountability channel. I frankly don't care to be.